Professor Burp's Bubble Works and Vampire are possibly Chessington World of Adventure's most successful attractions. Created by legendary designer John Wardley and introduced as part of New Land Transylvania, these two rides have a fascinating tale to tell. Chessington Zoo was founded in 1931 and was originally conceived as a place for entrepreneur Reginald Goddard to home his collection of exotic animals. The successful venture expanded to become the largest private zoo in England, leading to numerous additions and small-scale rides. Passing into corporate ownership, by the late 1970s, the site was managed by the Tussauds Group. Hoping to turn around a steady decline in visitor numbers, Tussauds enlisted legendary designer John Wardley to overhaul the site and create a theme park out of the failing zoological attraction. John Wardley had a vision for the site, using his experience in the film industry and creating the UK's first true theme park, one that would immerse visitors in exotic lands and take them on a journey around the world. Utilising a meagre budget of £12 million, off-the-shelf ride hardware would be woven into the existing site, and themed areas created to surround the attractions. At the time, there was no true theme park in the United Kingdom. Alton Towers, while expanding, was still a collection of nicely presented travelling rides in landscape grounds, and nearby Thorpe Park still leaned heavily on educational exhibits. Even Euro Disneyland was still in the early phases of its development. The new Chessington World of Adventures opened Easter 1987. Guests could visit the Mystic East and take a ride along Dragon River, speed through the Old West on Runaway Mine Train, or take a futuristic adventure inside a virtual world on the fifth dimension. Additional attractions and experiences would be spread among the existing animal exhibits, creating a fully rounded visitor attraction appealing to the whole family. By midsummer, it was clear that Chessington World of Adventures was a success, and Wardley's passion for providing a show and story-driven experience was instrumental in that. Immediately planning was started for future expansions, with a 1990 target opening date. Guest feedback had indicated there was an appetite for another thrilling ride. The Runaway Mine Train provided gentle thrills, but the public wanted more. The bird gardens were an area of the park carried over from the earlier Chessington Zoo, and relocating the aviaries and exhibits would free up a large area of land for redevelopment. Seeking inspiration, John Wardley travelled to Virginia, where Aerodynamics had just perfected the suspended roller coaster with Big Bad Wolf at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. The new attraction saw roller coaster trains suspended below the track, with visitors riding in individual cars capable of swinging. Wardley was impressed with the attraction that could provide a thrilling ride while still pleasing local planning authorities with its reduced heights and low-to-the-ground layout. Of course, the attraction would be located in its own land, but what would be the theme of this new area? The ride's motion suggested flight. After deciding something dramatic was needed, vampire bats were settled on, and the vampire was born. This would provide the tone for the whole area, which would become Transylvania. Using slight geographical license, Transylvania would be a Bavarian town with a small square and associated architecture. A second attraction was also needed to round out the area, one that would be more family-friendly. A water-based dark ride would be created, and fitting with the mid-European aesthetic, would be themed to a small-town brewery. However, this brewery was owned by crazy scientist Professor Burp, and instead of beer, would brew fizzy drinks in all manner of fanciful flavours. The area would be rounded out with shops and a large themed restaurant. Chessington visitor numbers continued to grow, and plans were approved. Construction on the new attractions progressed, with the park advertising Vampire as the world's most impressive hanging roller coaster. The day of the first test run came, and was held in secret under the cover of darkness one midnight. Nervously, the train was set off, and partway through the circuit failed to make it over a hill. Arrow engineers had forgotten to load the train with sandbags, simulating a normal load, and once reset, the train completed the circuit perfectly. The secret test had worked, and the next day the advertised maiden voyage went without a hitch, to the delight of assembled onlookers. Finishing touches in place, the new land was ready to welcome guests on April 11th, 1990. Passing through an archway below a tower, visitors would find themselves in the small town square at the heart of Transylvania. To the left was the factory tour, Professor Burp's Bubble Works, To the right, Black Forest Chateau Restaurant. Every few minutes, vampire bats would swoop overhead, enticing those guests brave enough to take a ride. Starting with a Gothic archway on the edge of town, visitors would wind through woods, giving those waiting a perfect view of the ride they were about to encounter. Ominous music filled the queue, and riders passed a graveyard and tombs before entering a dark passageway into the abbey. The music swelled, taking on rock tones, and the confined passageway opened into a massive station. Chandeliers glowed overhead, roller coaster trains sat waiting for riders, and at the far end, an animatronic organist performed, playing his pipe organ. Trains were composed of individual bat-shaped cars, each holding 4 passengers. Once loaded, over-the-shoulder restraints would be checked, and the roller coaster progressed up the first lift hill. The train dropped slowly to the right before changing direction for a left-hand turn and entering a 270-degree helix, swinging sideways and making its way towards the second lift hill. After a slow ascent, the trains crested the hill, swooping downwards and flying over the main square of Transylvania at roof height. This felt like the highest part of the ride, held by the sloping site, and the vampire moved slowly, allowing riders to appreciate the view and the swinging of the cars. This swinging is interrupted by a dramatic plunge into a subterranean tunnel. Trains felt like they would swing upside down before slowing at the crest of a hill. The ride dropped to the left and entered its final brake run, returning to the station. Visitors would then exit, returning to the town square at the heart of Transylvania. Attracting their attention would be the building that housed Professor Burp's Bubble Works. The ride built on John Wardley's prior experience, using his industry contacts and creating a compelling family attraction. Entering the station, visitors would find a line of circular boats slowly progressing through the centre and would pass over a bridge to board. A catchy tune filled the air and boats floated through the first of many scenes. Riders encountered Professor Burp and his team of bubblehead scientists as they invented and produced endless types of fizzy pop. Boats twisted and turned, and the lavishly detailed sets could be viewed from any angle, creating an immersive experience. The theme music changed subtly depending on the room, complementing the animatronic cast. Boats passed through factory offices, mixing rooms, testing facilities, development labs, and a fairground, all filled with zany characters and wacky puns. After ascending a short lift hill, boats would slide into the grand finale. The music had swelled, and boats passed under hundreds of fountain jets, lit in a rainbow of colours, boats snaking through the largest room on the ride. The fountain finale would signal the end of the tour, and visitors would quickly return to Transylvania. Their visit to the new land wasn't over, and they could shop for souvenirs and dine in the adjacent Black Forest Chateau restaurant. This large eatery had a themed interior, with a stage where an animatronic organist would entertain diners. John Wardley had done it again. The new land was a success with visitors, and paved the way for many additions to Chessington through the 1990s. The positive reception of themed areas at Chessington pushed Tussauds to acquire Alton Towers. Building on the successful formula of immersive areas and associated rides, Katanga Canyon, Gloomy Wood, and Forbidden Valley would be created. By the turn of the millennium, the vampire was in trouble. Aerodynamics, the ride's manufacturer, had declared bankruptcy, and the roller coaster was beginning to suffer spiralling downtime and maintenance issues. One option would have been to remove the ride, but the restrictive planning constraints faced by Chessington would see it unlikely that another attraction of its scale could be constructed. Vampire would be closed for the full 2001 season and would be overhauled by the coaster manufacturer Vekoma. The track would remain the same, therefore not requiring additional planning applications, but Vampire would receive new trains with updated control systems. The trains will be a new development for Vekoma. They will be floorless while retaining the ability to swing while encountering the tight curves. Additional modifications were required as part of the overhaul, and when the new Vampire opened in 2002, it was clear that this version of the roller coaster did not live up to its predecessor. The new trains were larger and required additional clearances, and to accommodate this, trenches had been hastily dug, with soil piled up visible from the queue line. Once the highlight of the ride, the tunnel had been shortened and was now a brief dip under a small roof. Even the station had been changed, removing theming to accommodate the new trains and losing the drama and ambience at the same time. Despite this, the changes enabled the vampire to continue its flight through Transylvania and remained a strong ride, still pleasing visitors at the theme park. The town square of Transylvania would transform again in 2005, with the change of Bubble Works from a drinks factory to a soap factory. Professor Burps had become a fan favourite. But the early 2000s was a time when sponsorship was king at Tussauds Properties. Having seen success with corporate-led re-themes on the Flume at Alton Towers and Rumba Rapids at Thorpe Park, Tussauds turned their attention to Chessington World of Adventures. Professor Burp's Bubble Works would be replaced for the 2006 season with Bubble Works, sponsored by Imperial Leather, a British soap and toiletries brand. The ride system would be retained, but most of the detailed and carefully themed sets would be removed or altered. Animatronics were no more, in their place static figures and props based around bath time or showering. The Imperial Leather logo would be everywhere, and the whole ride acted as an advertisement for the brand's products. Upon opening, the new version received mostly negative reviews, driven by a fondness for the original, as well as the lack of originality in the refurb. So strong was opinion that original designer John Wardley was warned not to ride, being told he would weep if he did. Despite poor reviews, the ride continued to operate at the park, its branding removed in 2014, and limping on for another 3 seasons. Ready to kickstart a multi-year refresh of the theme park, Chessington announced that Bubble Works would close in September of 2016 to make way for a brand new dark ride. It was subsequently revealed that the replacement would be the Gruffalo River Ride Adventure. The existing ride system would again be reused, this time to tell a story based on the Gruffalo franchise. Static sets, projections, smells and ambient lighting would be used to take visitors on a journey through the Julia Donaldson tale. The new attraction was better received than the Imperial Leather version, especially given the source material played directly to the park's key demographic. The reliance on projection meant the new sets were much smaller than the originals, and many of the classic Bubble Works scenes remain, with the new ones constructed in front. The transformation of Bubble Works also brought a new name for the land, Wild Woods. With this change came the end of Transylvania, but the area remains largely the same as it did in 1990. Within the woods, visitors can still find a quaint European village with Bavarian architecture and the vampire swooping overhead, remaining a thrilling sight over 3 decades after opening. Instrumental in the success of Chessington World of Adventures, Transylvania and its attractions have delighted and thrilled millions of visitors to the park. The blend of detailed environments and themed rides, entertaining guests, as well as inspiring theme parks around the world.